On 30th December, the US Customs and Border Protection had blocked the entry of palm oil produced by Sandabi over forced labor allegation. The allegation made against the 11 of the ILO forced labor indicators that is said to be found in the company's production processes. However, Sandabi had accounted the issue by engaging the external party, which in this case PwC, to assist their continuous improvement on combating forced labor, besides implementing their robust policies to protect their workers' rights. The 11 indicators of ILO forced labor are abuse of vulnerability, deception, restriction of movement, isolation, physical and sexual violence, intimidation and threats, retention of identity documents, withholding of wages, debt bondage, abusive working and living conditions, and excessive overtime. So for Malaysia, there's no definition of forced labor in Malaysian legislation. However, there is one act that address on forced labor, which is the Anti-Trafficking in Persons and Anti-Smuggling of Migrants Act 2007. Forced labor, however, comes in the form of exploitation in Section 2 of the Acts that define all forms of sexual exploitation, forced labor or services, slavery or practices in similar to slavery, servitude, and any illegal activity or the removal of human organs. In Malaysia, forced labor allegations are generally linked to the recruitment and employment of migrant workers or workers from rural areas. And for the agriculture commodity industry like palm oil or rubber, it requires a large amount of labor range from high skill to low skill. And for example, in palm oil industry, the highest demand is on the low skill workers. With the increase of global pressure on forced labor impacting the agriculture commodity industry which contributing to the national and global economy. Therefore, Malaysian who has yet to have a specific act on forced labor need to have more robust policies. It will be more efficient to use the bottom-up approach where the employers of organizations should be included in the development of national policies with regard to the forced labor and should receive the support needed in fulfilling expectations placed on the businesses. What palm oil industry had done, they had used the top-bottom approach on forced labor issue when the MPOB had enforced under MPOB Act for all the plantation players to be certified with Malaysian Sustainable Palm Oil Standard. In the standard, it addressed the principle of social responsibility, health and safety, and also employment condition. Any violence of the standard will result in the suspension or revoke of the certification, and finally the unwanted situation for the company where they can no longer operate due to the suspend of MPOB license. Just like how MSPO being developed, that requires the wide range of stakeholders to give input and endorse just to later build credibility among the other standards. This is also what needs to be applied for the development of the Malaysian law on forced labor, where it requires a bottom-up approach to tackle the issues. In the UN SDG 8 target can conclude the needs to tackle forced labor issues in the industry and the effect to the social and economic needs. You can see the target of SDG 8 stated that it calls on all to take immediate and effective measure to eradicate forced labor and modern slavery on human trafficking and secure the prohibition and elimination of all forms of child labor as an essential step to achieving decent work for all, full and productive employment, and inclusive and sustained economic growth. And lastly, to conclude, it is important for the businesses organizations in the agricultural commodity especially to respect their legal obligation to eliminate forced labor in their operations in meeting the national law and also the regulation as well as international standards. In the interest of economy, this will make the business sense and protect and attract investment, and also to ease the cross-border trading to promote fair competition.